Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you in the beginning of October. Oh, wow. Great time to be alive.
Yes, and we have a great show for you today. We are talking about self-leadership. We are in a new renaissance of inner sovereignty. Did I say that right? Sovereignty. Sovereignty. Okay, good. And we've evolved beyond being followers and having gurus telling us what to do. So stay tuned to learn how to effortlessly turn within for your own guidance and direction.
It is so powerful and important to be able to hear ourselves. I think that's probably a lot of the problems for many of us, Joan. So that's what we're going to focus on today, everyone, is how to listen within and trust what you're hearing and how to be user-friendly with yourself and own inner guidance. So if you like, join us for that. And right now I'll tell you all about, join us at our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And there you can find all our podcasts. I won't call them old because these are ageless. So they're podcasts. Both Joan and I write blogs each week about what's going on in life and help notice just the events happening of the day. And both about our meetups. Myself here in Portland, Oregon, through meetup.com, and Joan does hers in the Puget Sound area. She's kind of taking a break while she's off in New York this month or so about that, but you'll get all of her latest information there. And also about our sessions, clients, groups, webinars, all the different ways we interact with partners. You'll find also our Twitter, Facebook, YouTube links on the site. So there's lots of different ways to catch all of this. And there's a listener's offer there. I can see how this is going. So when you listen and you access the website, there are gifts there for both of them as our thank you. What else do they need to know?
Well, as you mentioned, I am going to be in New York for the month of October and probably also the month of November. So if you happen to be in the New York area and you would like to get together with me for a session, you can contact me through Joan at joannewcomb.com, or you can go to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, and contact me there. So the meetups might actually be happening in a completely different side of the country, the way things are going. And yes, if you want to go take advantage of our listener offer, you go to our website and there will be a pop-up for your email address. So you can get on our mailing list to find out all the new and groovy stuff that we're doing. And you will get some special gifts from Janet and myself. So there was like two gifts for one email address.
A bad way to go. And also I want to remind you about my Fuzzy Photons Playground group that I offer via Zoom video conferencing on Thursdays. It is just about as close as you can get to being here in groups. And we have all kinds of things happen. And for any of you that are not local to me here in Portland, please consider joining us. We have people on other continents who join us all over the country, small groups where it's about as hands-on as you can get. So it's live, interactive, fun, and you can contact me directly at the website. Well, no, me directly at janetb@janetandbeyond.com. There's information on the website, the Conscious Conversation. JoanandJanet.com. So lots of different ways to get your registration packet. It's really reasonably priced, sliding scale. And you can get all the help, support, and just community that you would like as you go through what please consider joining.
Well, that sounds fun. What are we going to talk about? Self-leadership.
Yeah.
What are your insights about it, Janet?
Well, we're all leaders, right? I'm tired with following. I think that's something that's happened in this whole change in society with the 2000. Remember 2000? Whenever that
so
was.
Long ago.
Right. The something has really been happening within all of us, and it's the awakening that we didn't have so much leadership as being followers. It's finding our personal lead, finding within ourselves, being able to listen to ourselves, and the changes that certainly happened to me on a personal level since, and I can use that as a framework a little bit, kind of like, but about getting into consciousness technologies and appreciating myself and life in a different context, and where that all comes together, and how certainly in this day and age it's important to hear your own truth and to question. And it's always okay to question leadership about followers. That's what it's about for me. How about for yourself?
Yeah, I see that self-leadership is an important part of what is going on with our evolutionist consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
We have been gradually evolving over time, becoming more and more greater consciousness informed. So that means the greater aspect of who we are, the essence of who we are, which is infinite wisdom, which is infinite knowingness. That is awakening within us, is how it feels like it to us. And so it's a natural evolution going away from having other people know more than we do about who we are. So like the whole therapy model, which was really important at its time as well, but it has evolved from somebody else being the expert with what your problems are and diagnosing and, pigeonholing you with those certain labels, to you getting in touch with your own inner wisdom. So yes, so that was just that's a very minor part of it. There's a lot more to delve into about that. But there are many, many opportunities. And if you just look around the world right now, you can see how we're all collectively stepping into our own individual power. So it's a very exciting time.
Well, and it's a real interesting, yes, I agree, yeah. In listening, this is nothing new, except that I think when you look over the development of civilizations and you look at, as we gather more people, there are physically more people in the world than there'd be, 1,000 years ago, or 2,000 or 10,000. And how we operate as humanity and families, life, how we organize ourselves, how we make choices, how we have a plan, our family, our community. And as those developed and the nature of them, we find ourselves now, we've kind of been in our sophistication, I suppose we can call it, or our detachment, or our strong forces that play, whether it's religious, and I suppose that's a lot of it, and religious leaderships, royalty, and, you use the word sovereignty, and it is about each man. And so we have a history of following others, someone being dominant. And it's time for us to wake up to what's in our hearts, what's in our sense, and how that aligns with someone who takes leadership. And that you're not coming from a place of less than, coming from an equal as. And so you follow because it is what you feel in yourself. And positions and titles, hierarchy, leaders, we'll always have those opinions. But it's about how you value yourself. How's that sound?
That sounds great. That there's so much more to explore about this. And so stay tuned, because we do have to stop for commercial break, but stay tuned because we'll be talking more about consciousness and self-leadership when we come right back.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet. We are talking about consciousness and self-leadership.
Yeah, we got it, right? I guess the question is, how are we leaders and followers at the same time? And this, it's that positioning that they might play. How can we be both?
What a wonderful question that is, because it can be a very confusing dichotomy, because would there be complete anarchy if we just all go off to be our own individual leader and I'm not following anything? What comes to mind? This is a weird analogy, but Spain has like 6 different political parties. So trying to get their elections resolved was like this long, took forever, very chaotic and confusing, and which is also part of the wonderful aspect of that Spain is. So what would it be like if we had more than just 2 parties that were really decisive? And it's really not about that. It's when we view things from the perspective of our bodies, our personalities, and from the world level, then those kind of questions arise. And, well, somebody has to be a leader and somebody has to be followers. When you view it from the perspective of consciousness, all of us individually can be a leader within our own life. That means we also have our own choices about the directions we go. And it is also about the choices and decisions we make of who we elect to do jobs for us. So the truth is, our elected leaders are actually our trusted servants, or should be, So the people that we elect to public office, they're actually beholden to us. We are their employers. So that's just another aspect of what is going on, and so it's a way of holding your own seniority and your own inner authority in relation to other people who have different responsibilities than you.
And I think what comes to mind in that, Joan, is the qualities that make a leader. Okay, you can have a bad leadership and you can have positive leadership. And so we are all in the game of life leading ourselves. And it's just how we abdicate powers to others or over ourselves. It's all usage of it. So it's turning it into a state that it's not so much about an egoic place. It's about, in terms of egotism or one over another, which unfortunately gets used a lot. Somebody's got something and somebody wants it. And that's just the way life organizes. And so you have it and I want it and I'll take it. And it becomes a game of power and force and all this. And we've seen where all that leads us. We are living in 2018 and actually much older than that in community. And we've seen the dynamics that kind of approach creates. So is there a different approach? Is there a different way to say you have something, I don't seem to have that? Now, is there a way without taking it from you that we can exchange? So do I have something that you would like? That's community building to me. That's where there's an exchange of things. And when you get someone who in whatever system goes, no, you can't have it. And so I hear the child at play. It's mine. You can't have it. And you hear the other child going, well, what about my apple? Would you like my apple? And you either get coaxed out of your position of rigidness to accept, oh yeah, the apple would be good, okay. And you watch kids, they do this navigating all the time. They negotiate all the time. We negotiate with our children all the time. You do this, and I'll give you this. Now, there's a graceful way to do that, and hopefully with Stephen as our guest next week, we'll get into that at the end of the show. As he explores emotions with him, he'll explain a lot to him. But it's how you participate. So you're not saying that you're wrong for having that. I'm not wrong for wanting it. It's a matter of supplies and demands, but in a kind of a different way. That's what we're seeing so challenged with trade agreements and how we interact with our neighbors, countrymen, and other countries and their countrymen. And it's just a fascinating brew of different approaches.
So, from the perspective of consciousness,
okay,
consciousness is the ultimate awareness, the ultimate authority.
Mm-hmm.
And as consciousness, we each are senior. So we're each individually senior in our own space.
Okay.
So it's beyond the hierarchies of
yes.
how we've done, and like you were talking about the monarchies, and so it's interesting to watch how the monarchies are all modernizing, and they're marrying commoners, and and becoming more connected to the people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what would you say to someone who isn't quite as in touch with their sovereignty?
What would I say about not being in touch, or
what would you talk to someone who's like sitting here going, I don't identify with any of this because they're going to take my insurance away and I'm going to die.
Yeah, right. I think the choice you have is to either be you have many choices, right? It's when we get faced with the choice that's life threatening that this stuff really becomes down. Okay, there's no fudge. And we realize that we like to live in a world of fudge. And we all like fudge. I don't know anyone who doesn't like fudge. And the reason we do that is because it's soft, right? And it gives you some kind of comfort and pleasure. And so living softly and living like it's all fudge is just a different approach. So I don't want to be taken with my sugar fix, but let's see here, because we've been noticing how okay, maybe that's part of what we're tracking about people, Joan, is, last week we were talking about the heaviness that we were noticing and and if we and here's thought, switch it to fudge. And how are you eating your way through the fudge and that heavy butter? What do I want? It's the only way something is going that makes it hard to experience. How that it's okay no matter. It's like all those gaps. No, nothing. Existence first, science, whatever hours where you feel you knowing that take yourself out of the hand. Maybe not with clarity. Or action. Yes. That's very helpful. Nice piece. And does that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay. This is really. Oh, I didn't catch that message. Got it. Yeah, you don't want to. Yes, I am. You just you want to know where you are. You want to be facing the right direction.
That's true. Well, and that can be so confusing because one of the things that I notice for myself as I shift in consciousness is that directions actually do seem to disappear. So my previous meditation practice was incredibly disciplined, and it was turning within, and it was, energy was flowing in a particular way, and this is how you accessed consciousness, and the energy came in through the top of your head. And it's completely different now, and it can be from multiple different sources, and it's a different sense of how you want to anchor or be in reality, and even anchor doesn't really work. So it can be very confusing as we kind of upgrade to a new experience of being in our forms and operating as greater consciousness. So sometimes we just have to improvise. Sometimes we just have to make do with what is, currently happening, and, just, keep our head forward, talk to our computer, and
yeah, because
keeping the focus.
It gives you a direction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I'll just stay here and we'll make it because I can't figure anything else out in the moment, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So, and when we think about self-leadership or leadership, and what are those qualities that I'm looking for in a leader? Okay, the first thing that comes to mind is someone who appreciates who he has following him, who's listening, and who's listening to the follower, right? You have who values the input, and we pick them to make the bigger choice, right? Either we're in agreement with it or not. But that's quality, and in myself, so much life feels like it's consensus. Consensus is a great way when you have a lot of different factions, like Spain, we talked about all the political. Well, we see how consensus has to happen when there's more than one, or more than two, I guess, in those numbers. Or it's stalemate, which is kind of what we experience a lot of times in our political field playing out. There has to be those willing to step across the party line, the line in the sand, and go, join me over here, or let's meet in the middle and let's see what we have in common to share. I want that for myself in my same way. You know, we as consciousness, and using consciousness technology, and doing that, is how do I navigate with myself? Those things that feel stuck, hard, rigid, as I become more open to places that are not. And how do I embrace my totality and appreciate those stuck places, patterns, and take the judgment off of them. I don't want to be judged. None of us want to be judged as less than, or as a problem, or as, oh, you're great if you do what I say. That's not good leadership.
Yeah, and when you're even viewing it from the perspective of judging, when you have that fear of being judged, that's not you as consciousness.
Exactly. Right.
And I think we have the opportunity now to become more discerning about what aspect of ourself is doing the navigation and what aspect of ourself is doing the perceiving. So the clues for that is, whether you're perceiving as consciousness or whether you're perceiving as your body and your personality, is it limiting? Is it narrow? Is it over controlling or specific? If you have fears, none of that is you as consciousness. When you make the effortless switch, the effortless shift to consciousness, it just becomes an easy game, and it becomes a fun game of choice and curiosity and wonder. Those are all qualities of consciousness. But it's also this amazing expansiveness and allowing. And I think you may have used that term earlier today. It's an allowing for what is unfolding, and there's no concern that somebody else is going to mess up your hologram, or you're in somebody else's hologram, or those sorts of things. Those are all narrow, fear-based, body-level perceptions.
Well, and I think, so as you access that, as we, the human, access that part of ourselves and acknowledge that we are consciousness, and we pull, P-O-O-L and P-U-L-L, I guess, from that informational center, right? And where you dip in it, where you engage in it and interact in it. What it does is it influences how you, the human part, show up in your world. Because as you gain more clarity, that's the place where clarity is. Because there's no attachment to the physical and the organization that way. And there's no time or space. And information is just free. And so it's free of agendas, it's free of perceptions, it's free of stuff that the body and mind have created it to be. And then you get to notice yourself in your world from a different perspective as consciousness. And since it's at our core already, all you have to do is just allow that filter to drop, but interact, and how you are in the world start to change. And that is leadership also, I think, in that you empower people to follow. If you have the art of empowering others, that's your baseline. There's reflect, and you can see bigger. It's important to helping others. Okay, that's how you do it. So, what it's like to be on track, empowering oneself and the others around. I think that's kind of all you need to be doing. And it's not empowering from their ego. It's not empowering. You're empowering as that's
Yeah, the term empowering is a very powerful one.
mm-hmm.
And if you break it down, it's empowering. It's power from within.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're really doing is empowering ourselves, and we're also acknowledging our inner power. And when you can come from that within place, and I'm contradicting myself because earlier I was saying it's not about directions, but anyway, it's when you're coming from within, and Janet, you'd say, heart-centered awareness. So for you, it'd be dropping into your heart. When you're coming from that place, then it's completely different. It's a completely different experience.
Yeah, and anymore, it's just about shifting your awareness to that place. There's no direction in it. It's just, I'm in the middle of it. It's in the middle of me. We're all one. And there's no distinctions or there's no directions involved. So it's just about accessing myself as that, as consciousness, as heart-centered awareness. And the only reason for the heart is that it gives a little vitality, and it's because we do think that we are without form. It can be challenging. So how we embrace something bigger than us, and then acknowledging that that's around us, and it's just appreciating. So maybe we thank followers for all this kind of distracting, taking us in different directions. Just about being present to me.
It is about being present and being in the present moment, being present time, being in your inner stillness. Those are all other ways to be able to access yourself as consciousness more effectively as well. And I didn't ever want to slow down enough to do that. I felt like I'd be missing the train or something if I did that. But now what I find is when I can be in the present moment or in the stillness of it, it is incredibly expansive. It's infinite.
Right. You come to that still place, and then it's everything. It's everywhere. And I think these are just conversations. We get so entrained into hierarchy, right? And that's immediately the conversation with leader and follower is hierarchy. And we have to remember that we're all leaders and we're all followers at some place in the engagement of being. And so we have to broaden how we've organized ourselves. And how many people go to work and they have a title, and you value yourself through that title. Not what you offer, not what you do, but the title. And that's the fault about ourselves, is that we believe our titles entitle us.
Right.
And they don't mean we're any smarter or good looking or better at what we do or hardworking. The title is just a title. So what would it be like if there was no title? And what if you had everyone in a room and you tried to figure out who they were based without a title and what place they have in a company, family, once you just start to notice the energy present in that person, it might be very interesting as an interesting exercise. Consider no title.
That is interesting because we're so used to measurements, you know, and you know, how are we going to interact with that person? You know, are they above us? Are they below us? And so many of those things, you know, we shift ourselves to fit in those spaces, or we shift our direction in life to achieve things that will place us at a higher, more elevated space. And, you know, we have to shift our mindset and all those sorts of things. And what is actually happening in the world today now is we are getting in touch with our own inner seniority, our own inner power, that empowerment. And it's not about the title, it's not about the salary, it's that we are all powerful, infinite beings, regardless of the external shape or form.
Yeah, that brings to mind the nature of walking in my shoes, right? And, you know, I'm thinking in terms, well, in a lot of terms, but what comes to mind in the business context is that the times that your management, but you go work in the mailroom. And you start in the mailroom because it gives you a huge jump up in the dynamics of what's happening in all the hierarchy, right? How the trickle-down theory, how information plays out, and is what's happening in the president's office effectively setting the course all the way through the company for good, bad, evil, wrongdoing, whatever the dynamics may be, and that aren't any of us asking for the other to recognize, have you been in my footsteps? Do you know what it's like to be hungry? Do you know what it's like to lose what is important? Do you know what it's like to have a disaster happen? And do you know who we are without making us feel bad for the place that we're in? And this is what happens a lot of time with what we might want to call with or whatever, people coming into an area and saying we know best what you need when you don't know who we are. And there's lots of different ways this conversation gets. We need to pay attention.
We make a very good point about, you know, not knowing who we are, and it is a huge shift of identity, because you think about how we grow up defining ourselves by our position in the family. Oh, I'm the littlest, you know, or I'm the oldest. And we pick up so many external factors that we define who we are by. And when you experience this shift in reality, it can be very disorienting. And sometimes external things happen that help propel it, like, you know, losing your career or losing your, you know, significant other, because suddenly you lose those aspects of identity. But, and as painful and as challenging as those examples can be, you know, you end up expanding into the greater part of who you are.
Well, this is an interesting side note, I think, or I don't know, it's what's coming to mind. It's some conversation I had recently where they were talking about how we're losing our middle children. Families are doing one or two.
Right.
And, you know, they're losing the middle child, who's usually the negotiator, because they're aware of what's going on above and below and how they're in the middle of it. So they have a natural position to be in the middle. Now, they may embrace that, or they may have some reaction to it or whatever, and it dictates the course of their life. But that awareness that we all play different roles, we all hold different positions, roles, and how embracing all of that behooves all of us, right? And so we have lots of examples now. Civilized experience of civilization and how to operate, how when you don't have a sense of placement, that might be because you're the center of the place. You're not out on.
Well, that's interesting what you're talking about, because in my family there were 4 of us, and so there's essentially 2 middle children. There's my older brother and myself, and at the same time we each got the experience of being the youngest. And then as the older kids went off to school, we got the experience of being the oldest. So there was some balance, I felt, to the roles that we had that you don't experience when you're the oldest or the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about finding that inner balance within us.
Right.
So, yeah, very interesting experiences, interesting times.
Yeah. So if we could wish consciousness, even just more of a drop. I mean, how many drops of consciousness do you need? It's kind of like sourdough, I think. Sourdough starter, you just need some drops. There it goes. How would we view ourselves? Are we looking to affect more outward or more in? You know what I mean? And shifting within ourselves to self, see, to me, is that the outward just tells me something about myself, right? And so as I shift and hold myself as consciousness in that state, that outside environment and issues and challenges starts to change. And those things that used to trouble me or challenge me regularly, or problems, to be solved. And then either you solve the problem or you don't solve it. Then where are you? Being within myself and appreciating the wonder of myself changes my life. Totally changes. But it's not dictated by outside consciousness. Right? Well, I'm not looking for anyone to save me. I'm not looking for anyone to fix me. And if that shows up, then I get to look at that. Oh, but this, I think it's different.
Well, Janet, it's about that time. We need to take a quick break. I want to let everyone know that you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We need to take a commercial break, but stay tuned because we'll be talking more about consciousness and self-leadership when we come right back.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, along here with Janet. We have been talking about consciousness and self-leadership.
It's that we can set it up that the world is not user-friendly and that it's difficult and challenging, or we can kind of shift on that and say, wow, I didn't know that was lurking in there. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, and let me deal with that now because I realize that dealing with it is really not like dealing with it in any other context before. It's in appreciating what the information has and how I choose to interact with it. I'm not threatened by what I hear inside myself, and I'm not necessarily challenged to hear a different opinion, and the way I've set things from ego and place up as opposed to as consciousness, which is really not attached and love story symbols. And you go, oh, okay, I was holding it in this context. No, that's not it at all. Okay. And things change. And I think that's a healthy way to live.
Yeah, that is very healthy.
Yeah. I enjoy my emotions, Joan. Do you enjoy your emotions?
I don't know. Is that a segue into talking about next week's guest? Because our guest next week is Stefan Cherich, and he is a counselor and psychotherapist, and he's a group facilitator and the author of The Penny Model. His book distills his years of experience on where depression comes from and how to overcome it. We're all emotional beings, he says, and we all need our emotions in order to have a happy and balanced and contented life. And his book explores the human experience through core emotions. So more about that is at thepennymodel.com. And Janet will be talking to him next Wednesday.
I'm looking forward to that because my strong viewpoint about life has always been that we're usually poorly emotionally trained. Right. And then if we can get that organized and realize why we have them and what to do with them and be more efficient and effective with them, we'd all be a lot happier. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I see that our bodies the emotions are our body's communication with us. Because when you're in consciousness, it's all good. It's all happy. It's all joyous. It's all ecstasy. It's amused. It's lighthearted. When you get into really core emotional stuff, it's really our bodies reacting and our bodies communicating to us. So it sounds like he's going to have some great information about how to listen and respond to those things.
That's helpful. Definitely helpful.
All right. Well, like us and want to know more, if you've enjoyed this show, we invite you to visit our website, which is consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And there you can listen to all our podcasts. You can also read Janet and my blogs. We each put out a blog each week. You can also find out about our meetups. Janet has hers in the wonderful, comfortable loveliness of her home, which is on Tuesday nights and on Thursday afternoons. And then we also do sessions by Zoom and by phone and by Skype, so you can find out about our sessions there. And you can find our links to Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube on the site as well, so you can follow us on YouTube. All our archived shows are there. You can find Janet and my different Facebook pages and our different Twitter accounts and hear about Janet's consciousness cookies there. And if you go to our website after listening to the show, you will get a special gift. We have a listener offer there. You need to enter your email address on the pop-up that will show up on the site, and then you will get sent to a page that has Janet's gift and my gift. And you'll find out what that is if you go to the website. Hey, Janet, you want to tell them a little bit more about your gifts? Not your gifts, but your groups, which is also your gifts.
Yeah, that's my gift to humanity, I guess, right? On Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Pacific, I lead groups via Zoom video conferencing. And you can download that to any of your device of choice and join us. For all of those of you who are not local to physical touch here, you can join me, and it's live and interactive, and we just have a marvelous time. Very profound, very funny, up to the moment, to the point about each of us in our daily lives and what it's like to make change and notice it then and how that plays out. I totally recommend you come play with us if you are looking for community and a hands-on. It's about as close to hands-on. We put hands up and you feel it every time in the state of consciousness. So we've got that at Janet B at janetandbeyond.com, and you can sign up for a registration packet and get all the details. And I'd love to have you joining from all over who do so. So please consider that. And what else would you like to do?
I am going to be in New York.
Right, you are in New York, right? Yeah.
I am in New York. Time and space. So if you're in the New York area, I would love to meet with you. I will have time on weekends available. So connect with me via the website. You can go to our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and send me a note, or you can email me directly at joan@joannewcomb.com, and you can have an in-person session if you want. So that should be a lot of fun. And if this goes into November, then I will probably have a meetup or two there as soon as I figure out a location. Where are people having meetups in New York? So very fun, exciting, lots of interesting things unfolding with this new bi-coastal life of mine.
Yeah. So I think this is just about using the opportunity that we're noticing in the collective, in the real time and space sense, and consciousness being free of those elements, to just consider how you interact and what you want to do about that. And enjoying life from the position that you have opportunities to experience yourself in a different way. Take the title off. Call yourself a leader. Don't be a follower. See what happens. Just try it.
Yes, you can play with the terms like seniority or authority.
Oh, great.
And notice how that changes your inner feeling when you respond to things. It gives you just a completely different way of responding rather than reacting.
Mm-hmm. Say that again, Joan. It was authority and what?
Authority and seniority.
Seniority. Okay.
Senior in your space. Yes. Yeah.
And about being your own seniority and your authority. Okay.
Exactly. It's a little easier to say than sovereignty. Sovereignty. Okay.
Got it.
I think of sovereigns, like coins. But this is more about your inner power, your inner authority. The essence of who you are is infinite, and there is no one senior to you within your space. So how would your life be different if you did that?
All of that is about choice and how you choose and what you choose to believe and how you set your rule sets up about being. And as this fall comes to closer, here we are in October already, and appreciating what we've been harvesting and bringing the bounty in. One of those great things in your basket there is your sense of self. Not you to enjoy every circumstance.
Okay, well, Janet, this is the time where we tell people how much we appreciate them listening to us. It doesn't matter what time or space that you have been tuning into this, because there is no time or space as consciousness. So regardless of when you're listening to this, you're helping to create the morphic field of our show, and we so appreciate this. We appreciate you, and thank you all for joining us as Consciousness Expressing and Evolving.
Thank you, everyone.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and tune in next week, same time, same channels.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.